Andrew, do you still do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, thank you. Protocol. Now recording.
Bruce, you might want to go on mute for a minute. You might want to go on mute.
Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Mark here.
Steve Keller there.
Nancy here.
We do have guests of Jen Lewis representing KW.
Bob Gepper from the GSCDD.
Kathy Eversman and Andrew Johnston of the GSCDD.
And Bruce Blatt on the phone.
And Bruce Blatt. Do we have a motion to accept Bruce's participation via?
Extenuating circumstances.
Yes.
I saw motion.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Bruce. You can participate and we'll care. So we did a drive around this morning. Everybody took notes on maps that were provided. And now we'd like to discuss where we believe we have deficiencies or can make additions to the landscaping within Pelican. I did take pictures of areas that I had concerns of. I've got them on my computer. Obviously, not everybody's going to be able to see that. But the first area that started off at.
And before we even do that, if I may, excuse me, this is Bob Gepper. And remember, remind everyone to identify yourself for the minutes. They can tell who talked. But I want to compliment the group for handling the awkward situation of non-communication during the review, the survey. But I thought it was wonderful.
You thought we did a good job of being awkward.
I thought we did a good job of being awkward
Being quiet.
and not violating sunshine laws, which was a major concern. It is awkward, but we'll get used to it. But again, I think it was, generally speaking, it was a very good job. And thank you all for that.
So
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
this is Mark, the first area that I was wanting to address. And again, this is discussion. It's not me saying this is how it is, so. But we did have two other of these Majul palms, body palms, overgrown Sylvesters, whatever you want to call them. There were two other palms that you can still see where the lights and the receptacles are still existing. And they have since died. I did talk to Javier. He does not believe they died of Ganoderma, so we are free to plant another palm in there. Most of the palms we have lost have been the Majul palms to Ganoderma. And so I would be hesitant to keep going back to that same palm in the same place. What we don't have many of in this community are royals. I'm not sure why we elected not to go with royals in here for whatever reason, but I guess it would be my preference that we start considering adding them. And at this point, it would be my suggestion that where we lost those previous Majuls to add two royals. I've gotten pricing on those. And originally I was told they were $240 a foot of trunk. And Kathy Eversman went on the internet and found a local provider where he said I'll install them for $550. And after questioning Ameriscape, they said $520. So, and that's a 15-foot. So decent sized palm. The price went down to about 25% of what they originally anticipated. So that was a good start. I was relieved to hear that.
I have a question, please. This is Nancy Smith. A 15-foot royal, how old is that? And I ask because I think we're going to start getting questions on some of the smaller trees. They're not going to, most of them will not blossom for 4 to 5 years. So if we get questions, at least we can say, do you know?
At this point, I don't. It's
okay.
It's got to be field grown for that size.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously you can get bigger if you want to spend.
Right, we don't, but just so we have an answer when people ask us.
I can ask if somebody's got a guess as to how old a tree that size would be.
This is Andrew Johnson. I just have a comment, and it's only based on what I know from the Gateway community and Royals of the past. We have some Royals at the entrance of Gateway Boulevard, the entrance of State Road 82 and Gateway Boulevard. Those Royals are also in the median. They're very large at this point.
Mhm.
The root system has taken over the bed completely to where you can't plant anything in there. And I know that, and maybe Bob has some history on this, but I know that the Royals all the way down that median in front of Stony Brook were removed for that same reason, because you can't plant anything. I mean, they become a problem over time because of their size. Now that median looks to be larger.
Yeah, I agree. It is larger.
So you may not have that same issue, but I thought I'd just bring it up. You know.
No, it's a good
seeing
point,
the
but
rest
it
of
is
the
a
community.
wider median, Bob.
It is a
Yeah.
good sized median. This is Mark, and they're the only things in there as well. So they're not competing with bushes, shrubs, and other trees.
Sure.
So we are trying to be cognizant of issues like that, because Arroyo obviously is a presence, which is why we would like to use it in those locations.
This is Steve. Was that $500 some labor and?
That's planted,
Mhm.
520 per tree.
520 a royal for a
But-
15-foot royal.
And I paid about 2,000 for a 20 foot of grave.
Again, it goes up exponentially
Yeah.
with size, so.
So do we need a motion to plant the two palms?
Do we have to make a motion on?
I don't know.
every-
But you ought to get a sense, I would think. It
Okay.
sounds fine to me.
Cindy Waterston, I make a motion.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
That way it can be no
Okay, all right.
confusion.
Uh,
And that is at the entrance.
next area that.
And Nancy, you were the second on that, right?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Next area, if you can see this, is out towards the front. Again, this is Mark. These are a row of fire bush, which are in pretty good shape. They look nice. In front are remaining junipers. Over here, there used to be junipers. Junipers in many areas are dying out, and you will see a trend with me to get rid of juniper that are dying. It looks better to have nothing than junk. So it would be my suggestion at this point. I don't know if you're familiar with gold mound. It's a yellowish color. You can trim them to 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So they would definitely be another layer below the fire bush, which if the fire bush tend to show stress, they lose leaves at the bottom. So you're trying to cover up the base basically. So.
I just had real quick, this is Andrew, I just had a comment come in. This is a workshop, so a little bit different than our normal committee meeting. So I don't believe that there's any action that needs to take place during this meeting. It's only a consensus. Am I correct, Bob, on a workshop?
I didn't know this was a workshop. I thought it was a meeting. I could be wrong. This is a regular meeting.
It's filed as a meeting.
Okay,
It was formal
it's
agenda.
Sit on the website.
It was noticed.
Nancy.
Okay, it's, the meeting is called a workshop on my
Right.
screen, so,
Well, that's
okay,
Yeah, I
it's
think.
different than this.
okay,
So I think we're okay, but
we're okay, all right.
I'll go the side of safety.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because in a workshop, you can't make motions, but I think we can.
Well, it wasn't gonna be done on these. So anyway, I was just thinking, get rid of the juniper. And a suggestion would be the gold mound, which is gonna tend to stay shorter, compact, give you a bright yellow. And there's adequate space in there for them already where the juniper have died or would be removed.
Cindy Waterston, is the yellow mound yellow all the time?
Yes.
Cause I do think we need color out there.
Yeah.
It's too
Yeah,
good.
we
Yeah.
were.
The yellow mound or gold mound?
Gold mound, it's actually, Durate is the name of it, something like that, but gold mound is
It's not by Rio.
no, it's not.
Okay.
It's actually in the Clerodendron family, I believe.
Yes. Cindy Watterson make a motion to remove the junipers and put gold mounds in front.
Nancy Smith, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that was the dead junipers, right? Or you-
Well,
Wild
they're not
junipers.
dead.
Once they start dying, they're all gonna die, so just replace.
Well,
Replace them.
junipers in general, my opinion, are on their way out in
Okay.
many areas. And, one thing that I would like this group's okay on is where we have patches of bad looking juniper, just to get them removed, which Javier will actually do as part of the contract. And again, if you take out dead and dying bushes, it looks better to have nothing there than to have junk, in my opinion. So this is actually across the way, and these also are just guardrail fire bush. And they are starting to get leggy. But Javier says they can be hard cut, which means you're gonna take them down to like 2.5 feet, and they will come back strong and look good. But once again, it's naked underneath, and I would like to consider again, the gold mound again to continue on around. And
That's consistent with both sides of the
correct.
monuments.
And eventually I was gonna suggest it on the other side of the monument, because we have the ring of fire bush on both sides of the entrances. And it'll give you that splash.
Uniformity and the
coming
aesthetics
in
and-
that should stay low.
This is Jen, fire bush on, by the low line wall, the bottoms are getting bare, so that would
Right.
really help to.
And Javier feels fairly confident that a hard cut, which he's doing as part of his contract, not as an extra cost, should rejuvenate them.
Steve, on the golf course, we'll take them down to 8 to 10 inches and they're
Yeah.
back in a heartbeat.
Yep. And I've requested that they do that sooner than later, so it's done during the rainy season, so they'll reflush before all the people come back and start to screen that. we
There's
killed
no
it.
bushes.
I suggest you amend the last motion to include both sides of the street. As simple as that.
Cindy Watterson, I'll amend the last motion to include both sides of the street, replacing junipers, and if there's no junipers, gold mounds on both sides.
And for clarity, this is the corner of Pelican Reserve Boulevard and Tree Line.
Yeah. Nancy Smith, I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Look at doing that. Next area up. I just want to picture Kathy there. And actually, we can talk about this now. The pergolas, I would like to put some vines on them, has been suggested. However, I would like to wait on that until we paint.
Mhm.
We're anticipating painting with a new color scheme. So I don't want to put vines on it and then expect the painters to try and work around it. So I would like to hold off on the pergolas as far as planting them until we get a paint scheme selected.
Mhm.
The only thing I would like to do around the pergolas again is clean up. There's Indian hawthorn that is not good. I mean, it's on its way out, and just, again, for now, just take it out, get rid of it. We'll leave it open. We can determine if we want to change it later in the future, but at this point on the pergolas, I would leave them until we can get them painted.
We replaced those pergolas a few years ago. I don't remember when, but the wood was rotting. And I looked at them today and they look pretty good. They're still robust.
If you can see this, this is the other side that we've already agreed on to put fire bush in. You can see how they need a hard cut to get them to rejuvenate. Oh, this is another area that I wanted to address. Behind this wall, there used to be ligustrum all the way around. Most of them have died. On the other side, they're still healthy, but on this side, which would be on the left as you're coming in, almost all have died. So it would be my intent to clean up the few that are there along with the volunteer plants that have started to grow in there to get those cleaned out. And then put a taller, more colorful bush back there that would give it some pop. A suggestion, we're open to suggestions. My thought is I don't know how many of you are golfers familiar with, there's a hole on Carina where they used alternating burgundy and green and white, copper leaf. And I just thought to have that, I mean, it's very showy. I put it around my own air conditioning unit. Obviously, it's not a huge area, but I just think that would be another area to bring in some nice color where presently we don't have any.
And when you, and this is Carol Pancock, and when you cut it, it grows right back.
Copper leaf is very aggressive. Yes,
Copper leaf I have at my house, it made it through the hurricane and everything. I mean, right after the hurricane, it looked terrible, but 2-3 weeks later, it was nice again.
This is Steve. The only thing I'd suggest is I think in that, on that hole off Carina, they planted it way too tight. I mean, they're growing way into each other.
yeah, you need to plant those probably 5 feet apart
Yeah.
if you really want to give them
Yeah.
some space.
So you'll give direction to Ameriscape on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have to do a plant count to put it together for the request for proposal.
This is Jen.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Nicely, if anyone wants to see one of them, walk along Cypress, and one of the holes that Cypress, you could see him clearly.
Thank you.
When I've been going out with painting contractors, looking at the monuments and that wall, that the back end of that wall is really taking a hit with the irrigation. So having something as a barrier is only gonna help the longevity of that wall from getting constantly watered.
We have a motion to look at planting copper leaf.
I so move that we plant copper leaf in alternating colors.
Cindy Watterson second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is an area by the pergolas, and again, we could elect to throw something in there now or wait until we get the pergolas painted and then try and come up with something a little more comprehensive.
This is Nancy. I would wait till we
Okay.
get everything painted.
All right. This is over on the left side. Again, the junipers in this area have died out. And it's starting to look maybe not quite as attractive as what we would like. There's a lot of volunteer plants that are starting to come up. I assume at one point something was in there. Don't know what. Firebush would probably be my guess based on what they planted everywhere else, but, is this an area that we would like to address at this point?
Got a recommendation for what would go in?
Actually, this one, I don't think is the left side.
Right?
It's coming in on the left.
left.
At the exit side? Is this appropriate for the copper leaf or would this be, or is that too much?
I would go with something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for variety, okay.
I mean, choices to consider would be Panama Rose. We could always throw in more firebush, but we've got a lot of firebush.
Cindy
Well-
Watterson, can we bring any type of bromeliads in? I mean, something that they're gonna
You
grow,
can, but I don't know how they will be maintained is my
but
concern.
with Rogers.
How about blue plumera? Does that do better in a shaded area?
What's that?
Some blue
Blue
plumera.
Plumbago?
Lego, but
Plumbago.
yeah, in the shaded area might do a little bit better.
You had mentioned.
At least it would be color.
Cause if you go down tree line, I think it's Botanica Lake, their blue plumbago looks beautiful, but it's in a shaded section. I think it prefers more shade.
Plumbago, this is Kathy Everson, Plumbago is, they do say it will take full sun. I think it needs to have enough water
Yeah,
to take full sun.
yeah.
So it would just. Seems like Florida plants, they like what they like, and if they don't like it, they just die.
Well, something else that we could consider that we're going to suggest, I'm going to suggest further up is, are you familiar, anybody know what variegated pandanus is? It gets 2 to 3 feet tall. I don't know what's in there. It's a form of screw pine, but it only gets 2 to 3 feet tall. It's screw pine is a tree. And people in this community do have the pandanus. If you approach the corner of Cypress and Pelican Preserve Boulevard, there's that transformer that sits to the left. If you'll notice, there are 3 pandanus plants located there now that appeared on the.
Green.
That's what they look like. So they.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you get, it's a green and yellowish variegated. It is gonna get 2 to 3 feet tall. It does have a stalk. It's not a herbaceous. It's something that you could, it's a big enough area where you could put it in and
Get a nice splash of color.
let it go. I don't know how much pandanus are, how much they cost. The ones by the transformer were donations from a homeowner, so. Anyway, something to consider.
Yes, Cindy Watterson, I think we need to put the pop of color in there. I get, when you take the junipers out, it looks better. Some of
Yeah.
it's there come to me.
Yes.
And we wanted to say, hey, here's Pelican,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a little more color. So, can we price them?
Sure. Do we have a motion to price pandanus and consider them for that area?
And make it not to exceed $1,000.
Oh,
Be way more than what you need. I know.
Cindy
That way
Watterson,
you don't have to come back for another meeting.
okay.
You got
Well,
the approval for it.
all right,
I'll make the motion, Cindy Watterson to.
Give it a second.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Pandanas is what I read. I'm phonetic.
Bananas with a banana.
By the way, the Bismarck palms should be cut loose early next week.
Okay, good.
That was on the advice of Ameriscape. So the next area that I would like to consider is right in here. So here's the guard shack. There's just a big open space. Couple possibilities would be to put another royal in there. And again, I think it's a big enough open area that it would have adequate room for its roots. I would not be looking to plant anything else around it. So we just go in the center there. Another possibility that I'm looking into is, once again, Kathy Eversman found a palm grower that has a couple different palms. One of them is just fantastic in my opinion, Copernica foliensis, but it's got that silver white coloration. It will get big, but the leaves they're fantastic. I'm trying to get a price on those. Javier is working on getting a price. I was able to get a price directly from the grower. And I'm guessing that the palm, and it's not very big at this point, of that kind would be installed close to $1,000.
Jen Lewis, my only concern is for inside the gatehouse, so that there's sight vision of seeing vehicles coming up. So we have to make sure it's tall enough that it doesn't.
Is it tall enough as you're concerned?
Yeah, I just don't want one of those short squatty.
Pygmy?
No, I know what you're talking
The
about.
ones that look like a pineapple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I just worried that we'll have a low palm that gets
Well,
fat and bushy and then.
Again, the specialty palm would start off low like that. So if we don't want to go that route, then I would probably want to consider the royal as a possibility there to get the trunk height.
And royals are very pretty.
No, I have nothing against royals. It's just,
But that's a good point to raise. We don't want to block the vision either way. People
Yeah.
coming in.
Cindy Watterson, is there anything blooming that we could put in there instead? Like a jatropha or something short?
Block
Short,
sight
yeah.
lines,
Yeah.
You need some trunk height, which you're not gonna get with a lot of the blooming plants.
Well, we need something, so
Yeah.
Royal sounds reasonable.
Kathy Eversman, I think the Royal would be a deep green if when the Bismarck takes off, it will give you that blue silver color.
Sure.
And then with the deep green behind it, it might look attractive. And then with the color, if we do lines on the pergola, that should be flowering color. So I think it will increase.
The curvicula, they definitely need.
So listen, Nancy, if we went with the Bismarck versus the Royal, would it be tall enough? Did you say?
Bismarck is already there.
Oh,
It's
okay,
higher.
okay,
The
okay, okay.
Bismarck
I
is like
got
right here in that circle.
Okay,
This is just on the other side of the drive in between the
Okay.
two.
thank you.
It'll also tie in the Royals that you're
Right.
planting in the front, so you'll have like every other one.
Right.
And so I think it will look more symmetric. Yeah.
Well, this is Cindy again. Would you plant around it like you have with the new one? Or would it just, yes,
We could consider that. future.
something to,
There are
Yeah,
annuals
pop.
now.
Yeah.
But maybe you
Back
bring
here
them-
right now. We have a motion or work with more discussion or?
Cindy, I'll make a motion. Cindy Watterson.
You're spending a lot.
For a,
Nobody else is.
for a,
I'm saving my
I'm sorry.
voice.
A palm, rural palm,
And plants at the base.
and plants at the base.
we have a second,
Second, Nancy Smith, second.
all in favor?
Aye. Cindy, I'm trying to save my voice.
It's okay. Just never said so many.
Thank you.
You can be before you leave.
I'm like, let's move on. Stuff done.
This is, of course, Sienna in the background. Here we have the road junipers. These don't look too bad. At this point, maybe it's not the highest thing on our priority list. Just leave those for now.
I didn't think they looked that bad.
Okay, this is an area that I think we do need to address. This is the corner of Sienna. The Sienna driveway is just right around here. These have all died out. These are looking bad. So it would be my thought. These are bougainvillea, which I don't have a problem with bougainvillea, but now they're being shaded. They don't like being shaded. And so they're deteriorating. Whatever is here deteriorated down to nothing. So if it were my preference, I would go ahead and take out the bougainvillea that are left and come in with something new that would give it a little bit of color and dress up their entrance.
Is this the sidewalk entrance or the golf cart entrance?
No, this is the sidewalk coming down. If you stand on the road, just right around this corner here, Sienna's Drive goes in
So it's before that or after the Sienna Drive?
before.
So between the guard shack and the Sienna entrance is this drive?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm looking for, I do not have suggestions on this. If anybody, the only, go ahead.
Kathy Eversman, this is one area I thought maybe, crotons would work. I don't know if anybody has. any-
No, I agree.
I would like to see a yellow croton in there to brighten up that shady area.
Possibilities would be a
Crotons,
stoplight. That's got some good color to it.
Some crotons are very dark, or reds, greens, but then they have the stoplight variety has the yellow and it's more vibrant.
And this would be more conducive because they require some protection from the sun. That particular type of croton where this is a more shaded area than,
It looks barren. I mean, it needs
Yeah.
something.
there's no question in my opinion that it needs something. It's just a matter of what.
Javier could guide us on that, correct? As far as longevity for that type of a plant. And I'm hoping he would be able to say don't put that there or put.
Well, I mean, we've had
Crotons are good there.
crotons that have been there for 20 years.
Yep.
Yes.
So I think a croton, if, as long as it's reasonably happy, should,
Slow growing.
they are slow growing. We would probably have to put several in there to make it look like something. I don't know how many at this point. But, again,
Cindy, I agree with the yellow. I think it would brighten the area
and
when you're
if you,
driving through.
if you go with like the stoplight, they can have some pinkish reddish tones to them also, so. We have a
To
motion.
make a motion to price it out for crotons in that area. This is Nancy Smith.
Cindy Watterson, second.
Put it not to exceed, just so that they,
Nancy, just submit, this is Kathy Eversman again. Usually crotons are under $10. I mean,
Well-
well,
They're gonna be
Yellows,
35 bucks.
yeah.
from-
so under 500, not to exceed 500.
I'd like to amend the motion not to exceed $35 for the pricing and the croton in that area,
Individual plan, yeah.
in each individual plant. Thank you.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This is an area that I don't wanna do, I'm not gonna keep stopping on these. This is an area where the junipers have deteriorated. It's on the right side. This is the conserve area behind it. At this point, I just wanna get rid of them. We can add later if we so choose. But again, I just think getting these cleaned up for now is a definite benefit.
Again, replacing that with the gold dragon,
No,
Oh,
at
okay.
this point, I would just take them out.
okay.
We're still on the right side, right?
yeah.
Yes, I was gonna bring that's on my notes too.
I didn't know if that was an area that we talked about putting the pandanus.
We haven't, Cindy, we haven't talked about it yet. That mess right along the golf cart when, you know, right when you're coming up, you pass the stop sign, that little section from the stop sign to the guardhouse on the right.
Correct.
I have it on my
Okay.
notes.
Okay.
And there was approximately, this is Kathy Eversman, there was approximately 65 feet. Mostly sun in one area.
Okay, I actually have a picture of that as we were finishing up our drive.
Okay, so you'll come to it later. And then there was a shadier area.
Yeah, I took pictures of that area at the end.
Okay. Just one of my things.
Now we're getting. Right. Feel free to discuss while I try and figure out where I am.
One other spot you mentioned, Mark, was behind the guardhouse, so inside Pelican. Of shortening that, where the arbicola are kind of beat up. And maybe putting like a Christmas palm in there. Do we have to worry about sightlines behind the guard shop?
I wouldn't think so, no,
No.
because they can't even see it from the
No.
guard out there.
That's true. We have no,
Yes,
you're right, you're right.
When was the last, this is Jen, when was the last time we had pine straw applied? Do we know?
I don't.
It's usually
It looks
done in the fall.
years old.
Yeah, it does.
I've gotten a fresh coat of pine
Usually
straw
done in the
sometime.
fall. It's in the contract when they do it.
We probably missed it because of Ian, probably because they were doing so much storm cleanup,
Mm-hmm.
so. Was it been too long?
I remember them doing it last year. But I think it may have been before Ian.
Okay, and so a lot of it just got
Yeah.
blown away.
This is Cindy, the new plants on Pelican though, the new bougainvilleas, need it. They
Yes.
they
that's how you
need that
see it,
now,
the
like
leaves all around.
versus waiting. They just don't look like they're, like they
They-
need some.
They'll come.
Okay.
Please
That
be
was on my
patient.
note.
They'll come. I mean, and and I'm not trying to tout Javier, but he doesn't want to replace those either. And there is a guarantee on those, so he'll baby those along and get them going.
But as Cindy said, this Kathy Eversman's, as she said, as far as the weeds around each plant.
Yeah, that's
terrible.
what I'm addressing. is
Would,
the
if
lack-
they spray, will they kill the bushes?
I would not want them spraying. Because they would have to use a broadleaf herbicide, and that's exactly what a bougainvillea is, so. You either hand weed or,
Some mulch done of some sort.
we can talk to Javier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so tiny.
Come at an extra cost.
Yeah, but it's a pretty important area for entrance visibility and all,
Yeah.
so it'd be worth it.
Mhm.
And I know you'll squeeze out of here. I don't even worry about that.
Javier's been pretty good on
That's
it.
good. Well, only when you said you're gonna go other places, he's gotten the message. Good.
So this is an area as you're coming up to the four-way stop where we planted rainbow eucalyptus and a jacaranda. The people back in Chenza have asked for a little more privacy because a lot of stuff got taken out with the inn in there. There is a pretty good sized area right here that would lend itself to, I don't want to put in anything huge, but something to give it presence. This was the area that I was thinking about, the pandanus again. Again, it's got a large area that it can have. And then you're gonna get 2 to 3 feet out of it. It's gonna give you that pop of variegated color. And, it's done well for homeowners that have utilized it in here. There's in Bellagio, it's on Solera. So people have used it and it has done well. That's just an area, again, to give you it'll take over a good area spot. It'll give you a presence.
Now, this is Cindy. Will it be where the two trees have not been planted?
It's gonna be,
In between?
you'll see an
Yeah.
opening, if you go look at it.
Yeah.
Between the conserve area and this jacaranda there, that's pretty good size.
So what will happen with the two empty spots that we had the stumps taken out?
They are supposed to level those.
Plant grass?
Mhm.
We can have grass planted, but at this point, they need to be leveled off and let sit for a little
while,
bit.
yeah, settle.
Would they take this planting in exchange for eliminating the rumble strips?
You can fight that.
Okay.
Can I vote on the bubbles?
Yeah, that's what I want.
And everybody-
This is Nancy. Do you know when they are gonna start leveling some of those mounds?
They had told me they would do it shortly, and that was a week and a half ago. Then they told me they would cut the fire bush hard this week. And I'm waiting on that.
Yeah, the mounds.
Here's on vacation this week.
He's been responding.
Has,
Yeah.
interesting.
He said he was on vacation.
Uh-huh.
Here's a better, if you can see how much area is there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree it needs something, but the mounds do look bad.
do we have a motion to put in? I make a motion, we put in pandanus.
There you go.
Do we have a
I'll second
second?
it.
All in
Cindy.
favor, say aye.
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 So we will try pandanus there. And again, I think it will do well. I didn't take another picture of this, but back on the other side, on Benito, we put in 3 rainbow eucalyptus and a jacaranda to kind of mimic what we did on this side. That is a longer strip than what we had over here, though, and there's still a pretty large gap. There's a very large gap. And I would like to try a tree that we don't have in here, and that is a gumbo limbo. It's a native tree. It gets big. They are available. And they are supposedly one of the most hurricane-proof trees you can get.
And that's going on the other side of the street or further down?
On Benito, as you're headed towards town center, it's on the right side,
Okay,
not the golf course side.
gotcha.
But you will see a large gap between where the jacaranda is and where the live oaks start. And there is room definitely for a large tree.
It
You
does
got
not
it up, John?
flower.
It does not have a showy flower. It's planted for its form. And
But it almost looks like fern type. Oh, there it is. Oh, where'd you go?
it is,
Streetscape.
Yeah.
and it is a native tree, so we.
Talks about red bark that peels.
Yeah.
It has a brief description.
There's a flowering. It's spectacular, but I have one of these.
Does that tree flower at all? Nancy?
I don't.
The gumbo limbo,
Yeah.
it's not,
It's not mentioned.
I mean,
so-
everything flowers, but it's not grown for its
Okay.
flower.
This is Cindy, but Kathy said it has a pretty bark,
Yeah,
Mhm.
so at least we would have color from that, right?
The Dombea.
oh, those are coming.
Oh,
Those are coming.
they're beautiful.
And actually Javier is big on those as well.
Yeah.
How do you
I've
like
looked at
them?
some of my communities and the color is just.
We have one in our backyard.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They'd be good in some of those, maybe some of the median areas where you.
Just,
don't want to put a
they're
tree.
coming.
Yeah,
They're
good.
coming.
The book, this is just something that Mainscape put, or Greenscape put out.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
It's
we
my
got it.
Bible.
Okay, back to
Sorry.
gumbo limbo.
Okay.
It's huge.
Do we have a motion to try a gumbo limbo there?
So motioned. By Nancy.
Second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
What I like about this, gives you a brief description and kind of.
They use those for our training. When we have to go for our credits, for our license and Greenscape does, they do a nice job.
Oh, I just lost Bruce. Let me get him.
Hey, and again, if I'm skipping
Call
over
Bruce
any
Blair.
areas,
He's actually, he's on the call here.
Oh, okay.
Dumb man.
All right, great.
if I skip over any areas that anybody noted, stop me.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep cruising through. So the next area that I wanted to address is after you go through the four-way stop on the right side, the golf course. This is, if you see it on the edge of this is where a pine tree blew down and they cut it off. This is the golf course's stump. It's not ours.
I was thinking it was, do we need to talk to Jim Torba about when he's gonna remove?
They're not, this is Nancy, they're not gonna do anything unless we pressure them.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know that we have a right to pressure them to,
well, I can just tell them residents are complaining about it.
okay, you.
Would you like us to complain?
Yeah, we're complaining.
I'm mad about it.
I guess we could say we're looking at doing work in that area and the stump is not adding to the,
On site.
Unattractive.
so anyway, back to this. This is the area that, here's you first come in where it starts. So it's a pretty long area behind that hole that's not looking the best.
Lost several trees.
Yeah, approximately 3 trees have gone down. So what we had considered doing,
On sheet 2.
Yep.
see the four-way stop
Yep.
just to the right. In that area, what we were wanting to consider doing is adding a grouping of Panama roads. And again, actually, we can look it up in this book. For those, actually, Panama Rose is bush right on the other side of the walkway. They keep it trimmed to 3 feet here, but it'll get 7 to 8 feet high if you don't keep trimming it down. It gets a pinkish dusty rose flower like an Ixora. And they do well. And we have not utilized those in other areas. So I'm just throwing that out there as an option. It's known as a butterfly bush. a butterfly attractant. Anyway, that was one suggestion for doing a clump of bushes in that area. To start to mask some of this. Then we were looking at potentially a smaller tree, small to medium. A tree that has gotten, I think it's a native, is satin leaf. It's a copper colored on top with a dark color on the back. The tree is not grown for its flower, but it's grown for its foliage. And I believe it might even be a native tree, but that's considered a medium tree. 30 to 40 feet is max height for it.
This is Cindy. The butterfly bushes, if I'm not mistaken, they bloom continuously.
Panama rose are a pretty steady flowering shrub, and you get frequently, if you don't trim them that much, you get a little more of the lighter greenish silver foliage to it, as opposed to that color.
Different texture. It's not as
Mhm.
good.
Definitely need something there. Kind of like an eyesore.
Yeah.
Come down through.
So possibilities, again, we were thinking about clump of Panama rose. There's room for 2 smaller trees in there. I don't want to put a huge one like a Royal Poinciana or a Jacaranda or something like that, but something a little smaller. There would actually be room for a satin leaf, and another tree that we haven't utilized before. It's in that small to medium is a pigeon plum. Supposedly it's an attractive tree that will do well here. I know 2 residents that have planted them. Dave Howard has one, and Mayor Berg had one when he was here. Mayor Berg also had a satin leaf.
Like one of everything.
I know.
I've heard good things about the satin leaf as well. So again, it's an opportunity for us to bring in a different tree. They are available. I've already checked. And just to bring in something a little unique that's not looking the same as everything else. Hard to find them there. You have to go with the cat.
Was it Anita Pelican?
Thoughts and discussions?
Cindy, I like the idea of the bushes because you're getting something that's gonna kind of give you that blockage. But I would like to see something with flowering for the trees. The green, I understand, because we want to keep low maintenance as long as it's something different, but I'm not familiar with either tree. So I need to look into that
Is
more.
that only one with the variation in color? Was it Tabby Everson? When supposedly when the wind moves it,
You'll see it
that variation. in
like an
color.
olive, like a Russian olive, how they do.
I'm not really brushing out, but
Same, Cindy, it's the same way where you see the very, that would be fine, because then you still have color and your hedge would have color.
finding another small flowering tree that we don't already have.
It's difficult to find trees that'll
Mhm.
give you reasonable flower
That aren't.
of that size. That's why I was just, a pigeon plum is supposedly an attractive tree, good shape. We don't have one in our community for people to see, you know. Again, I'm in hopes that if people come in and they see some of these, maybe they'll start utilizing them in their own yards. So we don't end up with the same thing over and over again. Anybody?
Recognize the need for something.
Yes, Nancy. I mean, I think we should try some new trees. You know, if there is if the tree we're talking about with the wind, you know, brings out some colors. I think we should plant new trees that we know have survived where other people have planted them and that they look good and they'll last a long time.
Does Cindy make a motion to add the bushes, which are the butterfly bushes?
Panama Road.
Yeah, sorry. And also add a satin leaf, is that?
A satin leaf
Right.
and
And a pigeon
Plum.
plum.
Good.
I second. This is Mark. All in favor?
I,
I,
All right. The next area is actually just a little bit further down. It's kind of in the same area, but just a little bit further. Right here. So the area that we were just addressing to the right of the screen, this is just continuation. There's an oak tree and then there's this pretty good sized area right there. That's an area that we would like to put something in because right now, obviously what's there, it's just not that attractive. A couple possibilities,
this was here.
silver buttonwood. You are familiar with
I
silver
think the other one
buttonwood,
was here,
or
not here.
Oh,
another suggestion that I've heard is a silver thatch palm. If you're familiar with that, because again, you've got a good area here, so there is room to put in. A silver thatch palm will get 5 feet maybe. You get that, the leaves look like a Bismarck.
Yes.
And it's what they planted actually on
Oh.
both sides of this, like both sides, what they planted on both sides of the doorway to the Brocky Center. Those are silver thatch palms. So anyway, that would bring in some silver, a little bit different texture. Either the silver buttonwood, which are established tried and true bushes in here, or the silver thatch palm. If somebody has a strong preference they would like to advocate.
Cindy Watterson. Silver thatch palm, I think would be pretty.
Okay,
I agree, Nancy.
so you're making a motion?
Yes, this is Cindy Watterson. I'd like to make a motion to put the silver thatch palm in that area.
Do we have a second?
Need a second motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Motion. All right, this is, the next area. It's the bench where we put one palm tree on one side.
Mhm.
Kind of bothers me.
I mean, another one.
I would like to put a triple Christmas on the other side.
Yep.
If we just trim one branch on this oak, there's plenty of room.
Mhm.
It will look much more balanced.
Originally, it was because the oak tree was there. that-
Right.
So I need a
This is
motion.
Carol Hancock. We'll put the benches down there.
Ponds work group.
What
That-
did they-
That's,
That is such a good.
it was because we put fishing in there. And that's why we added the benches for,
Just friendly when you see it. you know.
And this is Nancy, I just want to comment too, because there's a lot of open area near ponds as you go down. Cypress Grove. And I'm hoping that we can do the same in those areas to make it just as inviting.
yeah, they, from the time that was originally, this is
I'm
Bob.
sorry, Prado Drive.
From the time we did, Cypress Grove, we didn't exist when we were putting the benches in the fishing
Yeah.
areas. And yeah, now it's appropriate to finish out that in Prado.
And I need to correct myself, it's really Prado Drive, I believe, from Cypress to Prado.
But either one, both
Yeah.
of them need it, yes. I'm not on that anymore. I used to spend money freely. Before sunshine.
But let me ask this question, as Nancy, if we are gonna put up a couple Christmas trees, and I'm gonna get ahead of you guys here, and I'm sorry, let's say in those areas, can we pay for the benches, or we gotta go through the pond committee to do that?
Oh, no. If you got the money, you can.
Okay, perfect.
I would hold off
I know, I
on
can't help myself, sorry.
one bite at a time.
I know. Nibble, nibble, nibble.
Yes.
Well,
Buy the fish,
I think what we're.
then put in the fish gates,
Yeah.
then designate the fishing areas. I mean, it was a step-by-step sequence without a long-term vision. We just got there
Yeah.
because it made sense.
All right, next area
So did you get?
We
what
need
you
to
need
do
for
a
that?
motion
Did,
to add the tree.
Add the tree.
So I'm gonna make a motion
Oh.
to add a Christmas tree by the
Christmas palm.
Christmas palm. I like tree better, but Christmas palm by the bench where only one Christmas palm exists today.
Cindy Waterson, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next area is in the median area. Here's the lift station drive going into the right. If the median area, several trees were lost in there through between Irma and Ian, so now there's a pretty long expanse there with nothing. What I would like to consider, and again, we cannot do this until I get quotes, is putting in some unique palms in there. So again, Kathy Eversman found the grower who has, they're called Sataki palms. They look similar to a Christmas, except for they have a chocolate brown stem. They look very attractive. And, I would like to consider, which we can't do until we get prices, 2 of those with one of the, Copernica foliensis in the center. And again, this is, we need prices.
If we had a motion not to exceed say $5,000. You have the discretion, if you, once you identify those plants, to put them in. I think that would satisfy the need.
I don't know if the group feels comfortable in just accepting that I've looked at them and checked them out, and it's,
Can we say palm
This
trees?
is what they look like.
This is Nancy. I totally trust your judgment,
Absolutely.
which one do you have?
the viewer, so
Oh,
no.
that's the Sataki, yeah, but I'm telling you, if we could get a decent
That's
size
pretty.
Copernica foliensis in here,
Oh,
those,
yes.
You have a picture of the Copernica?
I would have to go on.
That's why we would give you the not to exceed
Okay.
authority.
So how about in that area, I would like us to consider 3 palm trees. And depending on pricing,
Variety,
so we could
TBD,
have
your judgment.
motion to put in, if the pricing comes out, to, they call them Sataki for short because the other name is twice as long. And with a Copernica foliensis in the center.
moved.
This is Bruce. What location exactly are we talking about? Because I'm flying blind and I'm looking at some other.
It's in the median directly across from the entrance to the lift station by Bellagio.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Cindy Waterson,
I got it. I
So
think.
moved.
so moved, to agree to put 2 Sataki palms in and 1 Copernica, I can't say it,
In the center.
in that medium strip. For
Not to
within,
exceed.
not to exceed $5,000.
I second that motion, Nancy Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's coming out.
This is Nancy too. I want to publicly thank Kathy too for all the hard work that she does on behalf of this team.
This is Cindy, I'll second that.
I'll third that.
Okay. Jen. So this is the area, this is the corner by Bellagio where we took out a lot of juniper. And these are solitaire bougainvillea, which will get decent size. Those are the bigger.
They will
bougainvillea.
fill in.
They are the bigger bougainvillea that you see that have good color right now as you're coming down. They're in the median. So behind that is a gap. And these are arbicola there. So between the arbicola and where the bougainvillea are, we would like to suggest a dumbea. And I think a picture of the.
Where you are.
Yeah, and I think a picture of the dumbea has been passed around.
Yes.
It's also called a Florida hydrangea. It's not really a hydrangea, but the flowers are hydrangea-like. Good color. They will get decent size, but you can trim them to keep them what size you want.
In the short term, can that area be mulched?
Sure.
It's just kind of.
Yeah.
Looks ratty.
Okay. I will talk to Javier about mulching where we remove large areas.
We're talking pine straw, not mulch, right? Because
There-
it's just gonna.
Thank you, Derek. I have no idea what it is.
Our contract is for pine straw.
Okay.
Right. That's true.
Thank you.
So,
Cindy Waterson making a motion to put a dumbaya in the median with pine mulch.
do we have a second?
Nancy Smith, I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this is just another area I would clean up the
Okay.
junipers here as well, so. Don't need to belabor that, but they're everywhere.
Do you need, Ms. Nancy, do you need a motion that is generic across so you can remove all these junipers?
Well, I want to remove a lot of junipers. I
Yeah.
don't want to remove all the junipers. There's some areas that they still look okay.
Okay,
And again, I'm trying not to eat the whole apple in one bite. So I'd like to
okay.
take our time and actually this gives us an opportunity to use plants, get comfortable with some of them and then see, depending on how they do, use them a lot more, use the better performers more.
That's a good idea.
But
Thank you.
do I need a motion to be able to instruct Javier to remove several areas of junipers?
I wouldn't think so. That's your discretion.
Okay.
So this is another area in the median. Help me on this one, Kathy. Oh, this is an area that we had considered adding another palm tree. Again, another unique palm that has come up is called flamethrower. It's got a growth habit similar to a Christmas palm. When the new leaves come out, they come out in a bright red. They will last for approximately 2 weeks of that color, but it's a palm that has good color, good shape. It's becoming more prevalent in Florida. They've grown them in California. All the palms I'm suggesting have been grown in California for a while and are just now coming to Florida, so.
Cindy Waterson, where's this?
Yeah, where's the location?
Pelican and what?
Just a little bit further down.
Before Cypress Grove or after?
Before,
Before.
or wait, no, that's before Cypress Grove.
Ooh, that's pretty.
That's beautiful. Yep.
But again, those leaves only look like that about 2 weeks a year, but the form on the palm is still good the rest of the time.
Well, each leaf looks like that as
Yeah.
it comes out.
Yeah. The other area which I wanted to comment on at the corner of Cypress is where we added a bed. Then there's bougainvillea. The chunk of bougainvilleas that we have left is just a random shape. We would like to clean that up a little bit and just
You
cut
are
it.
just south of the freeway.
Correct.
Correct. Before you get to Bella Vista.
If you got a motion to add the flamethrower
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
medium
We didn't.
and then clean up the Cypress Grove bougainvilleas.
So motioned.
Second to motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Spent a lot of time to the street.
I'll just make a comment at this point. I don't know if I'll need a motion on it, but there's areas of Waxahachie grass and areas of muley grass where maybe a quarter of them have started to die or underperforming or whatever. I would like to have the ability to go around with Javier and just say, can we add a few more, or do we need wholesale replacement or whatever? I do trust his opinion on that. So I know a lot of the areas with the grasses are, some of them don't look as good as what we like, some of them do. But just to get his opinion on how to proceed with those areas. So just to let you know, we're not.
That should fall under discretion. Yes, absolutely.
See, as an example, just in my mind, are we talking about too, the areas where there's grass that goes up a hill on Cypress Grove where there are big patches missing?
No, he's talking about the tall, sorry, Kathy Epson,
Thanks.
the tall.
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
ornamental
All
grass.
right, thank you.
Muley
Ornamental
grass,
grass.
it's pink in the fall. There, and there's other kinds of grasses. Again, I think they need to be,
Okay.
some of them need to definitely be reworked in one way or another.
My ears are clogged, so I only heard grass.
This is, should it fall under Mark as well for any of the, St. Augustine grass that's like between the road and the sidewalk? There's some sections we noticed like up at the entrance. Trying to think where some other spots as we're driving around, that it looks like it's more weed than grass, and I think we need to just kind of get that cleaned out and put some new.
Yeah, and we can do that on an
Yeah,
ongoing
on
basis
ongoing,
without
okay.
a.
Are you- Kathy Everson, are you still waiting to find out about the virus? Or to
Yeah.
stalling on grass to see how the
Oh,
virus
yeah.
progresses?
Yeah.
My opinion, we'll have it someday. Just
Never
that how
knows.
long it takes, I don't know. Then you run into, is it worth it to bring in palmetto grass? Because palmetto has its own problems, not as severe as obviously LVN. But it's the only one that's a solution for not contracting LVN. But it's just not that great of a choice either.
Yeah.
So do you go the cheapest route and just put in more Floratam just to clean up the areas?
Let's leave that discussion for another day.
Yeah.
We got more than enough today.
Yeah.
Well, we're not gonna get done today. So.
Why, we have to be out of here by
continue this.
10:30?
We have to be out of here by 10:25 because there's a 10:30 meeting.
Okay.
So,
And speak fast, let's go.
Be out in 10:25. Yep.
all right,
Make motions fast, Mark.
Finish Park and Preserve, can you do that?
We're gonna pick this up next week.
Yeah.
You won't be here.
well. Will everybody be here next Thursday?
Yes.
Just so we
Yes,
have a
support.
quorum.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
need those three, just to make sure I have a quorum, so we can at least continue in some form.
You're making great progress today.
Quickly finish Pelican.
Hopefully
Preserve
healthy by
or
then.
not? Pushing it,
We
okay.
can try.
Let's try.
All right, so this is an area where we put, sorry, I'll back to. You can go ahead and talk.
One area that, this is Kathy Eversman again, one other area where we put in the false agave down before the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the false agave got put too far away from the end of the bed. It was kind of intended to be toward, if this were the bed, it's supposed to be intended to be like 6 feet in from the end of the bed.
Mhm.
Those will get 6 feet big. So it was discussed to put something in between where the cabbage palms are and where that false agave, if we were to move the false agave forward, and put something in between where the cabbage palm and the false agave are. We have a picture of that, or people are familiar with that.
Well,
I know what you're talking about. I remember that area.
one suggestion would be like a triple Christmas.
Mhm.
So you'd have the false agave, then you could have a triple Christmas with the leg facing towards the median. And then you can mimic it on the other end. We just move the false agave like 5-6 feet forward. That way that bed is now full. If you put in the false agave with something like a triple. Christmas.
Yeah.
Also in that bed, Mark, you said
Oh. The jasmine that's in there currently, I mean, it looks like it's been replaced at least once, if not twice. Some parts grow, some parts don't. It would be my preference. We give up on the jasmine. It's just
So
not doing
difficult.
well. Clean it out and consider putting in something like plumbago, which is not gonna get super tall. Plumbago is the blue flowering bush that you see around at this time.
This is Cindy. Plumbago blooms a lot too.
Right.
So they have a lot of color there.
It's not a real harsh sunlight, so I think it would be
Fine.
okay.
It will take, plumbago will take full sun, but it seems to do better with just a little protection, so it would get that in there. So,
You say removing the jasmine, add the Christmas palms, and then balance the bed.
correct.
And the lumbago,
Add
if
plumbago.
that's what
Right.
people.
It would be, I would like to make a motion that on the bed right before the bridge, that we move the new false agave further out toward the ends and put Christmas palms behind them. And then clean out the jasmine in the middle and add plumbago in those center areas.
Second, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
So just trying to hit stuff quickly right now. But these are an area that I think a lot of people would like to see something done. This is the corner of Cypress and Pelican Preserve Boulevard. These are Exoras that have done absolutely horrible. They're no good color, approximately a third are dead. And if you look on that corner, there are 4 patches up. So what I would like to consider is removing those Exoras and putting in Dumbaya. I think to have 4 groups of those, I mean, I think that's really gonna pop. The other thing that it would do is eliminate, and I don't know how this came about, is here's the patch of Exoras when you go around the corner in Cypress. And for whatever reason, they make a little annual bed in there every time. Nobody knows why. Javier said he just did it one time and then he stopped doing it and he got all kinds of complaints, so he started doing it again, so.
Master plan.
Yeah.
Again, we would be putting a group of 3 Dumbaya in here, eliminate the Exoras and eliminate those annual areas, which make no sense at all. So there's 4 areas that we would do in that area. So I would like to make a motion that we remove the dead and dying Exora and eliminate those annual beds and put in groups of Dumbaya at the corner of Cypress.
And Pelican Reserve Boulevard.
Cindy Watterson, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One question, should we leave the annuals until they're spent? People will have a fit if you rip out things that look good.
It too.
And plus the Dumbaya will be smaller at first, so they will take up space until that.
So transition into it.
Yeah.
Correct,
All right,
because I think the, what's there right now? Bullshit? No.
police.
What a glowing endorsement, Mark. All right.
I think the coleus will last a little bit longer.
Okay, one other, all right, we'll make this the last one.
Fine.
Um,
Thank you.
so if you recognize this area, this is where we did the copper leaf. There's a bench just over here. There's 2 beds of copper leaf. Anybody with me? This is on Pelican Preserve Boulevard.
Pond just passed over this.
So there's a pretty good sized opening here. And then if you look down, we had planned on putting a bigger tree here, and for whatever reason, I was short 1 tree, and that's where I left one off when we did our last go through. Just told Javier, don't worry about it now, we'll get it in the next round. So in this area, we would like to put a bigger tree. We can consider
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda, Royal Poinciana. I mean, we can consider something with a little size to it there. This is a golden ring tree, which they seem to be on their way out, so.
That's just ahead of Sevilla.
Yeah. So, does anybody want to make a recommendation on a tree here?
Jacaranda.
All right,
Do we have a jacaranda already?
there is,
Isn't it coming in?
yes,
This one.
No, on that pond. What's that big tree they just?
it's a Royal Poinciana.
That's a royal.
That's a row.
So we could go with jacaranda.
Uh-huh.
Give us
Is
a
the
different.
area big enough for, okay,
Yeah.
It's not in the meridian, it's on the side.
No, this
No, there's
is,
plenty of room.
this is the sidewalk here.
Okay.
There's
Yep.
Sienna back there. There's a good side there.
And we just planted one there.
There's
Yeah,
Royal
back
Flush
to the
behind
foot, yeah.
it. Over here.
Uh-huh. With the jacaranda.
Yes.
Cindy Watterson,
Big-
motion to plant a jacaranda by the pond before Sevilla, right?
Do you have a second?
Steve, I second.
Favor?
Aye.
We can address that next time.
4 minutes.
Well,
Don't wanna
we're
waste 4
seriously
minutes.
only like halfway through.
Okay.
Finish it next week.
Finish it.
But at least you get started on this now, this week.
Yeah. And I will hopefully have quotes on the palm trees from Javier, because he's working on them. I wanted to sooner than later.
Okay, if I could quickly, it's Bob Geppert, the landscape budget for 2024 year, and its high water mark stands at $1,011,000 as of yesterday. There are a couple more opportunities where some reductions may be made. But at least you know what the budget will be that we'll be working with next year. So you'll be probably somewhere between 960,000 and $1,011,000.
Close to what we had
Could be-
this year.
Yeah, and the only thing we really added was the holiday lighting, which fell into your bailiwick, for lack of wherever else to put it, 25,000 at the entrance. But, it looks pretty good budget. We've added 5% for a rebid this year, but I don't,
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what our.
not to
overages
exceed,
be,
yeah,
so-
TBD. Well, we went from 540,000 current year to 567 next year, $27,000 increase. So, yeah, we may not need all that. Mark's pretty good negotiator.
This is,
We have a motion to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn.
A second it, Nancy.
All in favor? say
Great
aye.
meeting, guys, great meeting.
Motion adjourned. Thank you.
Moving forward now. Moving forward.